Real talk, raw feelings. Welcome to Attunigrate's podcast series. If I'm being honest, I'm your host, Nishani Javardhana. I'm the founder of Attunigrate. And I'm Himgauri Alvi. I'm founder of Tessellations and creative mind behind it.
Today, we are excited to introduce Rhonda Hemphill, a financial strategist, ordained minister, and what she calls an awakened soul activator. Her work centers around helping women remember who they truly are and step fully into their power. She is the founder of Goddess Society, where women reconnect with their divine identity, explore the universal truth, and grow into their spiritual strength and financial freedom. What is truly unique about Rhonda's work is she bridges the gap between practical and the spiritual. One moment she's talking about spreadsheets and the other about retirement plans. And the next, she's guiding women through fire circles and sacred teachings. Through ceremonial practices, transformation guidance, and grounded financial wisdom, she helps women realize they are not separate from their purpose. They are the vessel, the voice, and the living expression of it. Rhonda, we are so excited to have you here. Can you let us into this world and let us know how this journey began?
Absolutely. That's usually the first question that people ask me. And I like to look at myself as the bridge because what most people don't understand is that their finances, I like to say your bank account is a direct reflection of your emotions. And so if you are, especially for us women, we feel bad and we go for retail therapy. But retail therapy is not so healthy for our budgets, not so healthy for our finances, especially if it becomes an addiction. I've worked with many of families and couples where the husband is making great money and has an abundance in resources, and the woman is spending through it faster than he can make it. So it is a it is a common thing that you see in families where women's emotional and energetic off balance, and you see that reflected in how she spends her money. It's definitely connected, and being able to understand what your spending habits are, even for a normal household.
Yeah.
And being able to connect that to your family, how were you raised, and these thought patterns and mindsets that we have around money transfer into adulthood. And sometimes not for the best reasons, and other times for great reasons, but they are definitely a bridge between who you are mentally and emotionally and your finances.
Right. And I think,
Definitely.
something that you're saying, it tells me, and it seems very obvious, but when your bills are paid, we all feel safe and we feel safe in our bodies. Our nervous system is regulated because everything is taken care of. So what you're describing is that when that does not flow and when there's a blockage or there are underlying concerns that's bringing up. So it sounds like you first ventured into the world of finance and then realized or perhaps maybe discovered the spiritual connection, or maybe that was already a discovery that you had been aware of, but you were wanting to slowly introduce that into the financial world?
Actually, the opposite. So, my original career was as a cardiovascular specialist. So, I was in cardiac procedures with physicians and working with them and having patients that, because of my spiritual background, I understood that they were dealing with heart chakra and energetic issues
Yeah.
that were manifesting as arrhythmias because I worked in the electrophysiology space. And what many people don't know is that the heart is an electromagnetic machine. Each heartbeat is a electrical impulse. And if you're nervous, that machine revs up.
Yeah.
If you're calm, it slows down. Well, if you have an irregular heartbeat, that's a direct reflection of irregular emotions or emotions that have not been addressed and that are suppressed. But the body can suppress for so long before it begins to demonstrate that there's a body out of balance. And so knowing that in these spaces,
Yeah.
I had patients that I would see on the side and kind of coach them. And with a lot of people, one of the main concerns they would have is, why are you out of balance? Well, I just got a divorce and I'm trying to figure out life, and I went from two incomes down to one, and I still have the same bills, and things like this were really the root cause for these heart conditions.
Wow.
So a prayer of mine was, how do I help people in a space where it really counts with their finances? And then I started down that path and ended up leaving the health industry and moving completely into the financial industry. So that's how that
Wow.
evolved.
Wow. Yeah, that's quite the journey. And I think when you think about the biology of the heart, like when you were
Mhm.
describing it, right? And realizing that sometimes the physical manifestations of what's happening to our bodies is a representation of what's happening to us spiritually, mentally. And when we ignore that, we bypass that. I always say in the world of therapy, people will kind of shove it to the side because the body is capable and it's adaptable. So it will do what it needs to do to keep us going. And then at some point, it just goes, yep, I'm done now. And it does not happen overnight, in my opinion. And then it starts to give away and then you can't hold on to it as strongly. So I notice that with a lot of women, what I worked with in their 40s or sometimes 30s, 40s, and 50s, they're realizing that the things that they normalized and were okay doing early in their life were no longer working for them. And they're hitting
Right.
these points that they're feeling so frustrated with their bodies or they feel disconnected. So the fact that you've bridged the heart center, money, and the spirituality of all of that is really, really cool. We're so excited to
Yeah.
bring you into this room, into this conversation, because Gigi and I, when we first met Rhonda, for our listeners, Rhonda said something in one of our networking meetings that really struck me. And
Mhm.
you talked about the role of women and the spiritual leadership that women naturally uphold in a household, in the context of home. And to me, at that time when I heard it, I'm like, whoa, I don't think I've ever heard anybody in my culture, in my upbringing, refer to the woman of the household as the spiritual leader, even though that has very naturally been the role. But they're like the underdogs. They're like behind the scenes,
Yes.
navigating the waters and telling everybody where to look, what to think about, what to start. And yet they never
Right.
get the credit. And so I was looking at Gigi and Gigi was already with me and we're like, we need to invite Rhonda. We need to have this conversation. I would love for other women, especially women of color, brown women, like the world that me and Gigi come from. I would love for that validation, for that affirmation to be discussed because it is something that is already existing in our culture, in our households. And yet it's often overlooked, right? Because we are part of a patriarchal system as of as we stand and breathe today. We're part of in my opinion, a broken patriarchal system that has caused a lot of tears and wounds. So I want to bring that conversation in. I want to get us started. I do want to come back to some of what makes you you, Rhonda, because I believe you are also an ordained minister. You teach universal law. You have this wisdom and self-realization and the work that you're doing that you share with others and share with other women. So I'm curious about your thoughts of the patriarchal system and how you've navigated that as a woman.
Well, as a cardiovascular specialist, I was usually the only brown person in the room and
Mm,
most definitely the only woman. And there were spaces and times when I would walk into a physician's lab and he would look at me like, "Okay, where's your trainer? Where's your superior?" And I would tell him, "I am it. And I am the best in this area. And if you would like someone else, we can reschedule your patient and we can move forward." And of course, they wouldn't want to do that. And over time, usually with that first procedure, they would recognize my expertise
right.
and later on come to respect me and also ask for me specifically over some of my male white counterparts because not only am I able to bring again our feminine power as peace
Mm,
and nurturing over the conversation between me and the physician because it would be my job to guide them using three-dimensional technology, three-dimensional mapping systems, so they rely very heavily on my guidance
mm,
inside the heart. So being able to navigate and develop a strategy together with the physician was very much the whole purpose, and that would really determine the outcomes of these procedures. So I had to stand firmly in who I was
mm.
and what I came to bring for the patient and for the physician. And again, they learn to trust us as women I even had nurses that would say, Rhonda, when you come, Dr. Pelosi is so different. He calms down and our whole lab is different. But when I wasn't there, he kind of was, what's a nice way to put it? He was not the friendliest doctor to his nurses.
Sure.
But in the environment that I created, because us as women, we kind of shift the energy, or we set the tone for what's happening in the room, in the family, in the household.
Yeah.
And my tone was that of nurture. My voice also was calm, and it made for great outcomes after that for that patient. So I think we do that in all spaces, though.
Mm.
If we are aware and are able to access our power through our stillness, through our nurturing, and through our natural healing energy. So, yeah.
I would like to say thank you so much for standing your grounds, because you have not just done it for yourself, you have done it for generations to come as well. Because we had people like you who stood their grounds, today it's easier for some of us to raise the voices that we can. Just hearing you, I am feeling really grateful, because there have been a lot of them. And as you say, that we all stood our grounds in this entire men's world. Your field that you chose was very different, right? Like there were not a lot of women led doctors at that point who could kind of guide us into that journey. So thank you so much from everybody. Because of you, we don't have to fight the initial fight now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Gosh, I definitely want to add to what Gigi's saying, because it is, I think that our ancestors, the women before us, were suppressed and they experienced so much that they couldn't fight through that, because they were existing in times where it was harder. And I think, Rhonda, you were kind of at a point where you were questioned. Your existence was just questioned, right? Your expertise was questioned. You had to come in like really strong, and yet still hold that feminine presence where you're not really chasing and you're not begging, you're just standing in by principle. And that takes courage, because I think sometimes I'll notice, and I think I can speak for myself, where I've had to try to sound like the smartest person in the room when I'm in a room filled with people who are questioning my worth and why I should be in the room. And over time, I learned, like, maybe I don't need to be the loudest one. I don't have to add my 2 cents. Whatever perception this person has about me is their responsibility. It is not my problem. And well, when it's necessary, I can insert myself and be very firm in what I'm asking for. And I do think, and I'm a millennial, like Gigi and I are millennials, I think because of our ancestors and the roles that they've played, we have more opportunity. But then I see Gen Zers, and they are much more bold. They are aggressive with what they want, and they do not apologize. I think millennials, we're still apologizing sometimes for just existing and asking for space. And Gen Z is like, I don't care. I already took the space. I existed of that.
Yeah, our generation kind of had to raise ourselves. I'll be 50 next year. So our parents, usually both mother and father had to work.
Yeah.
So I came through in the world of latchkey kids. So yeah, we took care of ourselves.
Yeah.
And we would go outside and we would travel, this neighborhood, that neighborhood, and our parents would just say, hey, come back when the street lights are on. So we gained a bit of confidence and independence that I don't think generations before or after have really experienced.
Exactly.
So yes, being able to kick down a door and say, I belong here.
Right.
Because I have the education, I have the training, and I have the experience. And because you don't believe or don't know me, and you're looking at my outside appearance and judging, it's a challenge and both a joy to prove you wrong.
Yes.
So, and that was the stance that I had, you don't know me, but once you do, you're going to love me.
Yeah.
definitely.
So I wanted to, because I think what's really important is us setting the foundation for what the masculine energy is and what the feminine energy represents, because we do have both of these energies available to every person. Every human has access to both energies. And I know that sometimes that can be misunderstood. People are misunderstanding the role of the feminine and the role of the masculine. So I actually would love for you to share a little bit about the role of the masculine and then the role of the feminine, the way that you've understood it and the way that you've interpreted it. in your life?
Absolutely, absolutely. So I'll start with the basics. Masculine energy is outward energy. So if we just think sexes, gender, the masculine gives
Mm,
and the feminine receives.
mm,
In addition to that giving, the masculine energy is control, it's logic, it is force, and also productivity. A deeper space that I like to make sure that people understand is men have dominion, or masculine energy has dominion over the physical world that's around us.
mm.
So they're the hunter gatherers. They're the ones that make stuff happen. And as women, we can tap into that because of course, we every person has both masculine and feminine energy within them. So we can tap into our masculine. That's very much what I did in my career. And my career is step into that masculine energy and took control. But my feminine receptivity and my feminine grace was behind that control. So the people who were controlled weren't really feeling like they were controlled. They felt nurtured and covered. And that's also a masculine energy, is covering and protection. So again, masculine energy is over the three-dimensional world. So when we think about feminine energy, it's internal, just like our organs are internal. It's receptivity, it's emotional wisdom, it's nurturing, and more than anything, it's intuitive and 5D based. So we are the leaders over the 5D, or the connection to the divine. Babies, life is created inside of us. And then we have to take that life, regardless if we have a man's input or not, and we have to plan this infant's future. We have to make sure that we have enough resources for ourselves and for those offspring that we have. We also determine how they're nurtured and how they grow. So all of that is a spiritual authority, if you will.
Yeah.
And so women are in control over the 5D and men are over the 3D. And as those energies come together, you truly have manifestation either within you or even in a marriage. Let's just think about how the husband may have these ideas and he wants to start this business. If he doesn't have a feminine to kind of see beyond,
Mm,
and kind of see the potential of the business and see how it could be created and how it can grow, then he will put energy into something that may not lead him to success. But the man who has the feminine, who can say, yes, maybe don't do it this way, but maybe do it this way because this outcome can happen.
mm.
And he can't really see intuitively into that potential. And he follows her success. But sometimes if he doesn't, he comes back and he says, you know what? I should have listened to you. How many times has your husband say, I should have listened to you?
Mhm.
So
Good to
Yeah.
see.
that's kind of a 30-foot view,
Yeah.
30,000-foot view of both energies, both the energies themselves and how we intersect with them in relationships. So, yeah.
I would like to add on to something and ask you a little bit deeper. As a woman as well, sometimes you have masculine and feminine energies, and sometimes some take over more than the other. Like, it's a personal experience of mine. At one point, I felt like my masculine energy took over so much that it was very difficult for me to look at myself and feel all of that nurturing part, or, all like how you want to be so soft and nice. Suddenly, like, I'd become very, like, I was a protector. I had to give. There was no receiving for me. And then that was a blockage. If somebody is going through something remotely around this areas, like, what are the small steps that they can take so they can return back to their feminine?
So I think in that space, when we're diving too much into our masculine energy, it's usually out of survival and a feeling of not feeling safe.
Mm,
Because when a woman is safe, she naturally softens. So, some ways that you can feel safe, and then this is where the financial strategist comes in,
right.
is budgeting and creating lists of things that need to be done and simply checking those things off. Because if you are responsible for everything, then there's a level of anxiety that comes in, and that is automatically opposite of safety. Even if you're in a marriage and you're trying to get things done, and it's going to push you into that protector, outward, logical space that is masculine. But if you can use lists, if you can use budgeting systems, if you can create a system for whatever it is that's causing you the anxiety, that then allows you to say, let's exhale.
Yeah.
This is handled.
Yeah.
And now I can return to my softness because I have a system to operate in. And then that system becomes your protection and your safety. Yes.
Thank you so much for that, because I can resonate with every single word that you have said at this minute. A lot of our listeners by far know, like, I have had a major transformation, like, of moving countries. And in your 30s, it just gets really difficult. And as you said, like, having less, making sure you're safe, what the other person is also bringing into your life, where your energies are at, play a very important role. Currently, this is the most feminine energies that I have seen myself be in. Before this, I was like, the caregiver part of it, like, had taken up so much of me that I was literally like, no, I need to make sure other people are safe. Good as a feminine energy, but it had taken over so much that I had forgotten who I was, like how I would bring myself back to the entire space. So yeah, this brings me back to a home, because I believe that, like, your home is like a reflection of who you are as a person as well. Like, a messy home says that something is going on in your life. A better, it's not, I'm not saying that, oh, you have like a model home or something like that, that reflects, oh, you're perfectly doing fine. But things are in its place, gives you a different vibe. I would love to hear from the both of you.
Nishani, you go first. You're the therapist.
Yeah, I think I want to touch on, Rhonda, you were kind of mentioning where sometimes when you are not feeling safe, our nervous system gets so clogged where we have to be in survival. And I often describe it, and I've said it in the past in our podcast, where you feel like you're being chased by a bear, but there is no bear. Like, if you thought every time you stepped outside of your house, there's quite literally a bear ready to chase you. You're not thinking, oh, I forgot to eat breakfast this morning, and I probably should have gone to the bathroom before I stepped out of the house. You're now in, I must run and I will move everything out of the way so that I get to safety, right? And sometimes that looks really harsh. And I have met women who are very strongly in their masculine energy. And I can definitely, like you, Gigi, I can absolutely confirm that I was also, for a long period of time, in my masculine. I think we're serial entrepreneurs, and like, for sometimes I also kind of attribute that to a very masculine energy of like, let's go get after this. And yet I felt drained. I was noticing that it was draining my energy and I was not able to sustain. I was doing it for a long time. And I always say, I think my dad built me out to be the perfect man, because he definitely instilled in me that drive and that discipline. And I did not get that nurturing exposure because I come from a household that was very dominated by a male. And my dad played that role. However, his sisters, my aunts, played the role of being leaders because they were the elders in the family. And yet somehow they were so controlling that it influenced the way that everybody felt. They were the puppet masters of the entire family culture. And they were so strongly in their masculine that they would control. And Rhonda, you said it best. You said, like, the masculine energy is supposed to have dominion, not dominate, but have the ability to protect and take care of the land that we live in. And I believe over time, people misunderstood that role and took that as, let's dominate over everybody, right? The masculine needs to dominate, control over, and suppress the feminine. And that was my entire life experience. So the fact that I never felt safe, even though I had a male role and a leader in the household, it just wasn't as effective. In fact, I think my safety came from my grandmother, my mom's mom. She was the feminine presence that was very quiet. She would just whisper. She did not have to yell out loud about anything. And every single time she would say something would happen, so a couple months later, it would flow exactly that way. And it would shock, like Rhonda was saying, how many times would a husband go to their wife and be like, and I think younger husbands are a lot less likely to do that. I've actually met older men who are like, nope, I have learned to listen to the true whisperer in the background, the wisdom keeper. I've learned to use my partner's knowledge and instinct to guide me rather than fighting it and acting like I can figure it out all on my own because I don't need you. And then they find themselves in that role. So safety looks so different for everybody. But on a nervous system level, it's very basic, right? Can you take a full breath? And can you keep it in your system for a couple of minutes? And can you release that breath slowly and steady? Because if you're running from a bear, I guarantee you cannot do that. And your breath is going to be fast. You're going to have to move through really quickly. And that prevents you from taking in the big picture, which, from what I'm hearing from Rhonda, a feminine has the ability to see that big picture, to have that vantage point, but only when she is in her protected, safe space. So that's my personal and professional take on the matter.
Like we're going back to the 3D dimension and the 5D dimension. Like that's what she spoke about. Like, how much can they see and what we end up seeing. Like, as you said, like we kind of went back to what her point was as well. So, yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, Rhonda, we would love to hear your thoughts as well.
Ask the question again so I can.
Yeah.
Because
So
we go in.
I wanted to check on the thoughts of like at home, right? Like you do have a particular way. If it is a messy house or if it is a particularly cleaned house, there are people interpret it in different ways. And what is your take on it? Like maybe in terms of your mental health or maybe in terms of, how you're feeling internally as well reflects on your surroundings around you. So we'd like to get your take on that.
Absolutely. So again, I think from a mental health standpoint, yes, if you do not have clarity inside, you also cannot display clarity outside. That goes into one of the law of correspondence, as above, so below, as within, as without. So as you know, the importance of being able just to think about what it is that you need to do and then execute it. If you are dealing with misalignment in your energetic field, you're going to have conflict inside. And so you won't be able to make clear decisions, not only about your household, but about things at work. If we're these serial entrepreneurs, you're not going to make good decisions about your business or about choosing the right clients. And so these energies are echoed over and over again. I think it's important, like you said, to be able to rest and breathe. Spiritual hygiene is really being able to meditate and bring balance to your inner being. When I teach about the chakras, I talk about there's 3 chakras. There's 3 chakras below and 3 above, in addition to your crown. But the ones below are your earthly chakras, your grounding force, your and the higher chakras are, your thought process, the way that you express. These are intangibles. And what connects them all? Your diaphragm.
Yeah.
The breath.
Yes.
And that's what connects heaven and earth. And if you're just earthly bound, again, this is this masculine energy, just earthly bound, you're going to experience chaos. You're going to experience heaviness. You're not going to be stable.
Right.
And so bringing in the breath and making sure that you have good spiritual hygiene, good thoughts, good vibes, all of those words that they throw around you can shift your whole energy in 3 breaths. 3 cleansing breaths can shift everything and allow you the opportunity to reset, regardless if you're in the middle of a conversation where 2 conflicting points of view, or just looking at your mess of a desk and you're like, let me start with this pile here.
Yes.
Good spiritual hygiene can be the balance and the reset for any of those things that we're dealing with when our masculine and feminine energies are off balance.
Yeah. No, thank you so much for that. Again, like all of those things definitely like help because as you said, like those deep breaths kind of help you bring yourself. But at that given time, it's extremely difficult, to go over everything, like when you're not practicing them as often. So another thing that you mentioned about is meditations. A small tip that you can get for somebody who has an overactive mind for just to sit literally for a minute. Do you have any tips who can get something started in terms of meditations?
Well, I will say if you've done it, you already know where meditation can support you. But I also want to address the people who maybe have not. And when I teach meditation, I am very different in my model. I don't teach people to try to clear their mind. The mind can never stop. That's first. And then I want to remind you that we meditate all the time. When you're cleaning the house, when you're washing the dishes, when you are driving and your mind is just, in that space and maybe some downloads come. Hey, I need to do this. Hey, I need to do that. That is actually a theta state of mind, because meditation is about these different waves that we tap into, theta wave, beta waves. And you don't have to be sitting still to do it. So I want to say that first before I give tips. Next is you don't have to eliminate thoughts. If you can pair the breath and the thoughts, when I teach meditation, I teach just concentrate on your breath. Don't try to make it, rhythmic. Don't try to do anything. Just allow a lazy breath, but just concentrate on the inhale and the exhale that's just happening without any control. Again, in that receptive energy, just be the observer of the breath. And when the thoughts come, they're going to come. As soon as you observe that you're thinking thoughts, there's a thought. I'm going to go back and focus on my breath, and then go back to the breath. And eventually, again, start off 10 minutes, 5 minutes. You can do it at your desk after you eat. It's an easy time because we have the itis, right? We already want to. So just spend 5 minutes focusing on the breath. If the thoughts come, let them, allow them, and then come back to the breath for 5 minutes. And then you'll notice that those spaces in between thoughts and breath will gradually get longer and longer to the point where you can go into meditation like that, and it's just natural. And then when you come out of meditation, again, you have reset your nervous system, you've reset the mind, and those thoughts that you had aren't so pressing. They're not so stressful. A lot of times also in meditation, you get downloads that give you solutions to those thoughts, that because usually it's nagging thoughts. Hey, I need to do this. I need to do that. And in those spaces where you're allowing the consciousness to drop down into the subconsciousness or even the super consciousness, that's where our answers are. That's when we tap into the divine, and things, that's just where the shift happens. I can go into more detail, but that would be a whole class. But I just recommend focus on the breath.
Yeah.
And when the thoughts come and you're aware, come back to the breath. And easy, lazy breath. Don't try to control it. Just allow.
Definitely. Like, thank you so much. I'm going to say for this, because I have honestly seen myself, if there is something a little bit like off, I have seen myself going and cleaning, because it puts me in that state, and it just, everything is done on autopilot. Like, there are things that are going on in my head, but I'm literally, so thank you so much. Like, I didn't know like that was another form of looking at things. Like, it helped me calm down. A lot of times, like, my husband would say, like, why would you clean? Like, if you have to calm down, why would you clean? And I'm like, I have no idea, but it just makes me feel whole again. I see my house clean. I see myself being calm. I love that phase of my life, right? Like, immediately, like, there are times I cannot work and I know I have a deadline. I'll get up. I take that hour, I clean everything right in front of me, and I come back and I do it, because that's how much like things are going on in your mind. And when I come back to it, like, as you said, like, my breathing is back to normal. I'm feeling whole again. Like, everything is integrated. So thank you so much for like putting that as well. A lot of people are pretty much doing this, as you said, like driving. I think a lot of us like go through our deeper thoughts when we are driving, because it's an action. We are seeing things in front of us, and there are things where we go through all of our thoughts.
You're being still. Yeah, you're being still.
Yeah.
And even though we're driving, going place to place, the body is being still. Another thing is some people exercise, and think about just getting into the zone. That's what we call it.
That's
Getting
right.
in the zone is meditation.
That's
Yes.
right.
It may not look the same. You don't have to sit in lotus pose to be in meditation.
Yeah.
So that is
simplifying
the
that
gift that I give anyone.
Yeah.
I didn't hear you.
Yeah, no, I just said thank you so much for simplifying meditations, because like we all have seen meditations as like this thing, like, oh, you cannot move, you need to be in this one position. Like, today I feel like I'm walking out with this biggest lesson that I am doing what I need to do, but it's just that I'm not sitting in one place. I am meditating, but I'm meditating in a different zone. I'm vibrating in a different energy. And I'm sure there are other people who do it consciously or unconsciously, but have no idea where their strength is coming from. Thank you so much for putting that out for all of us.
As you were saying, simplify the meditative practice. I love being in a meditation during a shower. I feel like the water grounds me, number one.
Yes.
Another one.
And I have so much clarity in the shower that sometimes I'm like, I think I need to record an audio and then just speak out loud so that I drop these nuggets and these treasures, these downloads that come to me, right? And what you both are describing from a psychology perspective is when your physical body is participating in an activity that you're kind of familiar with, you can tap into what Rhonda was talking about, another brainwave change where it is able to open up a doorway that's not interrupted by the default brain that likes to go, this is what you need to do next, this is what you need to do next. Because like driving, it becomes second nature. And I think that is actually a concern that we have, that many drivers are so distracted because they're either dissociated and they're tuned into their brain, and they're so tuned in that they have forgotten what's happening on the outside, or they're staring at a screen, right? That comes out a lot. People are not feeling safe in their body. So we're looking for ways to disconnect. And the black screen allows us the ability to disconnect and go anywhere. So post shower clarity, oh my gosh, I will record myself sometimes, and I'll like vocally, I'll do like an audio journal. And I'm like, okay, I just had this thought and that led me to this. And then sometimes when I try to say it out loud, it's no longer coming out the same way, dropped into my mind. So something I'm practicing is how to really slow down enough to focus on what the true essence of that message was and what it was trying to connect me to, because it's such subtle wisdom. And Gigi, something that you're sharing, like you can't concentrate on the task until the things around you are settled. Like that is how meditation starts, right? Because you can't focus on the inside until the external creates a sense of safety for you, because that actual nervous system regulation comes from, is the body, the primal brain, does it feel safe in the environment, right? Because that lizard brain, if it's not safe, you're not going anywhere. You're not processing anything. You're just filtering really quickly and it's getting watered down. So I love the idea of meditate where you are, because sometimes you're right. I don't want to sit in a lotus position and be still. Sometimes I dance in meditation. Sometimes it's in the kitchen as I'm cooking. And it's a mindful practice that I tell everybody. I'm like, when you take a bite, ask yourself, what side of my mouth do I like to eat this food on? I feel like I focus so much on my right side, and I'm like, let me make it fair to the left side and let me move over. And then I think about what is this bite introducing me? Can I tell what the flavor is? Can I tell what I introduced in this meal? And having a meal with Rhonda the other day, we were very sensitive to the garlic that was in the whipped feta dish that we were both eating. And she saw me take like a huge, I had this like pita chip and I took like a huge dollop of that. And she looked at me, she was like, I don't know how you're going to feel about that much of that whipped feta. She's like, I don't know if you want that. And I was like, you know what? Thank you so much for that warning. But that awareness, right? She had the awareness of what was not resonating. And sometimes I do sense that people are living in auto mode, especially like when we talk about survival, we're living in auto mode. We're not taking in the experience that's happening around us. We're not tuning into the moments and how our body is feeling. So I love the recommendation. And thank you, Gigi, for asking the question, because I do think that meditation is the key to nervous system regulation. And it does not need to look the same. And it can look like whatever you want it to look like, because it's your relationship with your inner self, that inner knowing. You can tap into that. And that's kind of the role, right? So with that, I want to switch over to the conversation of what happens when women are unaligned, right? What happens when there is feminine energy is not present? Because we as women, we love to gather, we love to work together, we love to work as a village towards a goal. But I've also experienced in my life women who have genuinely tried to crush me or pull me and keep me in their like insecurities and their jealousy. When women are not aligned, there's so many spiritual attacks that we have to work through. So I want to bring that conversation into the room, because spiritual leadership also means recognizing what kind of blockages can there be and how do you recognize that in each other, and maybe hold space for that or create distance, because maybe it's not healthy to be in that space where the women are unaligned. So I want to definitely hear your thoughts on that as well, Rhonda.
Well, again, I have to get that 30,000 foot view. The first answer would have been the house is in disarray. So our house is really a direct reflection of our womb, what we're creating, and our true space as the feminine divine being that we are. But when we go outside of the home, the number one thing that women experience is burnout.
Yeah.
That is the biggest red flag. And you mentioned, well, I'll start with burnout. Burnout happens with lack of support. Let's say you are in this environment where you have women that are catty and everyone's in this competitive, again, masculine energy where, they're disconnected from themselves. And of course, if you're disconnected from yourself, how can you connect to others around you? So that's how that shows up, is just a lack of harmony in working spaces. That can be in an office setting or what have you. But let's come back to the burnout factor.
Yeah.
Is that woman taking time to taste her garlic, to experience what it's like to chew on one side of the mouth than the other?
Yeah.
When she gets out of the shower, is she taking time to put on a soft robe and lotion herself down and experience gratitude for her body and how it serves her every day? She is not. She is not tapping into, what is that? Just that self-nurturing, self-love, feminine energy that we are. And so if she's not being poured into either by herself or the environment around her, she'll be depleted. And that house in disarray, maybe business and finances in disarray again, the bank account is going to be the mirror.
Yeah.
And all of those things, then there's depression, there's anxiety, there's, she's going to go to the doctor. I need something for this. I have this pain. I have fibromyalgia. Everything hurts. Yeah, because you're not nurturing yourself from the inside out. And so the outside is going to hurt because you're not giving to yourself. So hopefully that answered the question, or at least gives us a start on what does it look like when a woman is misaligned.
Exactly.
Also her children. If her children are crying all the time and always have illnesses, that's a big, the house can be perfect. So let's not just talk about a disarray. The woman can have OCD and be in control of every little thing. And so the children act out and they don't feel safe. So they're whining and crying about everything. And you're like, that's just Johnny. He just cries about everything. Well, maybe because he doesn't feel safe and his mom makes him do things that don't make sense to him internally. And he doesn't have any other way to express himself other than to be this whiny kid. Or the opposite of that, you have the A-type kid that's trying to do everything right, because if she doesn't, mom or dad's going to have her head. So these things are reflected as imbalance in our work, in our families, in our children, in our homes, and most of all within ourselves. So that's how the misaligned woman household looks.
Yeah. And you know what? Something that you're describing is because we're talking about the role of the woman and how the feminine energy, the spiritual leadership in the household sets the stage for the energy of the people who reside under that, right? Because when I think about masculine energy, I always think about a very solid foundation home, like a home that will last 100 years, right? It's supposed to withstand storms and get through everything. I currently live in a home that's over 100 years old, and I often make a joke, and I'm pretty sure this house is going to outlive me and my partner, and it's seen so many people come in and out of this home. And the way that I think about it, masculine energy is the home, the structure, and feminine energy is what happens on the inside, and how the house is turned into a home, right? Where it feels homey, where you walk in and you can sense the energy. I've definitely noticed sometimes I walk into homes and I can tell the energy is so draining. Like I feel drained when I walk in. And the more we get into this conversation, the more I think about, I wondered what the role of the woman in that household was like. See, I grew up in such a male dominated world where we always focused on the male, right? We always thought about, what's the male feeling? Is the male doing okay? Is the husband or the leader, the breadwinner of the family often looks like a male? And if they're not doing okay, then the home structure changes and the energy of the homes changes. When in reality, I think I may have missed in those years that I never noticed the role of the female. I knew when my mom's mood was bad, all of us were done with. We're not going anywhere. None of us feel good, and we do not feel safe.
Enough good. I'm just going to say thank you so much. Like, we never spoke as much, but all the conversations today have struck a lot of resonance. I really have one quick question for you. Some women are not vibrating at the same energies, and you know that they're going to benefit if they get that thought process a little bit. They look at themselves in a better light. So my question is like, how do you get women to align when they don't want to listen from anybody?
The answer is you don't,
Okay.
because happiness is an inside job.
I'm just going to slowly difficult.
I only work with women who are what I call seekers, who recognize something's off with me and I don't know how to fix it.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, Nishani, you can agree, until someone's ready for any type of therapy or self realization, you have to think, what's going on with myself? And no
Yes.
one from the outside can bring anything to you if you don't see anything's wrong with yourself. So, and not that it's wrong, but that you want to change and be better. If you're not growth minded, if someone's not in a mindset of abundance and growth, then there's no way that you can bring that to them. You've heard the term, you can take a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. Yeah, even if he's looking at his reflection, if he's not thirsty, he's just gonna stand there. So
Wow.
to have a thirst of knowledge for themselves. I
That
know
is
it's sad, but that's just the truth of it.
Yeah. For me, it's just that because sometimes the better part of life. Honestly, like it's not something that I knew since I was a kid. Like when I got onto this journey of understanding, every door that opened in front of me was very abundant. Like every single time, as you said, the downloads that you get. And I'm just like, this world is so beautiful. But like, you're right that you need to know that there is a light. When I see women who see complete darkness, I'm like, just can you step out of that and see that for yourself. That's why that was my main, the question that was leading up to it, because the women are really beautiful. Like, it's just that you see your potential from a different light. You see that your worth, you see where you come from. You have already done a lot of those things, but give that space, give that energy. You don't have to vibrate in those low, you just have to elevate yourself and look at yourself from the 5D perspective again, because I feel a lot of them are still vibrating on the 3D level of it. Yeah, like I'm really like loving the fact of like the 3D and the 5D world. I'm just going to say that.
yeah.
Well, a quick suggestion is shine your light.
Yeah.
Inspiration is the only way you're going to get someone's attention, is if they see you and they say, there's something about her and I don't have it.
Yeah.
And then they pay attention to you. And even if they emulate you, whatever it is that starts them on their own journey, just shine your light. That's the greatest gift that you can give the world, is stand in your light and your authenticity and love yourself and show people what that looks like. Gigi, you said you're now in this soft place that you didn't even know was there before.
Yeah.
So that means that this glow that we see on you and, the smile that you have, smiles are infectious. Smile at people, just show them who you are. And then they'll ask why. What happened to Gigi? She's so happy now. What happened? And then you can share your story.
Yeah.
Yes. Wow. I feel like you just gave us some really awesome mic drop moments there, Rhonda, and to add to that, you are really talking about for us to not take the responsibility of thinking that we are meant to rescue other people. And I think that has been something that I'm still working through. And I think my role as a therapist definitely brought that on, and it forced me to face that, because as you said, until a person is ready and they have found a way, they have found that like moment where it's always subtle, it's not always loud, it's subtle, where everybody gets that nudge sometime in their life, right? I think we, at different points and milestones of our lives, we get this nudge. Hey, pay attention to yourself. What role are you playing? And is what you think about yourself, how does that affect everybody else around you? Because sometimes our ego-based brain is very much about like, it's a them thing, right? It's an everybody else thing, not a me thing. And to your point, Gigi, sometimes I have felt when I'm witnessing women and other people in my life who are struggling in that vibrational space of survival, I want to just kind of shake them and be like, but there's this on the other side. Like, all you have to do is just do these little things. And then it goes right over their head. They get really triggered. They get very defensive. And then all of a sudden, I am the source of their frustration. I am
Yeah.
now the cause of their pain. And
Yes.
all I was doing was trying to point out something for them to recognize, right? So I'm like, you know what? And Rhonda, last but not least, like what you said was just shine your light, because sometimes me existing in my power and reclaiming my power has triggered a lot of people. But some of those people who were triggered started their own journey towards their own realizations and their own self-actualization journey. And sometimes that meant I no longer was a part of their life, but I played a role, short, miniature little role where I just sparked their envy. I sparked them to get angry, right? Because they're like, why is Nishani being this way? She's not ruled by me anymore. I can't tell her what to do and how to think anymore. Because that used to be me.
Yeah.
I was influenced by a lot of people. I was caged into the beliefs of others, and the society's expectations were on my shoulders. And then I slowly but surely started releasing all of these expectations, found freedom, and now I'm like, I refuse to be placed in a cage built by somebody else. If I want to put myself in one, that's on me. I'll take ownership of that. All right, hands, that's fine. So I love what you're saying, and thank you for the question, Gigi. What I wanted to add was how can people get to know you? Because I feel like if our listeners, if there are women or men who are tuning into this and are thinking, you know what, maybe I am asking myself that question, but I'm not sure who to connect with. I feel like, Rhonda, you would be an incredible person for us to link any of our listeners who are in this space too. How can people get in touch with you? Of course, we will add all of your information in our show notes, but just off from your perspective, what would be the easiest way for someone to get in touch with you? How would you like them to approach and ask these questions from you?
I like to keep it really easy. WhatsApp. Everybody has connection to WhatsApp, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so my phone number, you can drop me a message. You can obviously go to the website, but I think WhatsApp is the easiest. My phone number is 313-300-7032. And if you search for me, the Goddess Society comes up and you can simply ask questions. I don't charge anything for the simple things, but always there's classes and workshops that I host that dive deeper into these concepts of just really diving into our divinity and knowing who you are outside of this world that we live in, knowing who that voice is that's in your head, and being able to be the observer and recognize the mind and the spirit that's within and living through that. So yeah, just drop me a question and WhatsApp.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a guest. If you've made it this far, thanks for hanging out with us. We hope it made you feel a bit more seen. This is, if I'm being honest, we are not promising perfection, but we are showing up as we are.
Stay real, stay honest.
Until next time.